My life turned into a living nightmare when I returned home, unexpectedly had to find betrayal waiting in my bedroom. The trust and love I had poured into my relationship were smashed in an instant. "This isn't what it looks like," she pleaded, but the truth was stark and undeniable. I was forced to confront not just her infidelity, but the crumbling of my entire world. Follow my path through anger, retribution, and the search for closure. This is my story. Enjoy watching it.
I am currently residing in my father's old fishing cabin, contemplating my next course of action after discovering my wife, Emma, engaging in infidelity in our own bed a few hours ago. The emotions I am experiencing are indescribable. I feel completely shattered and devoid of any self-worth. The anger within me is overpowering, causing me to question the entirety of my existence. Regrettably, I find myself without anyone to confide in. The one person I believed I could trust has betrayed me and even had the audacity to deceive me about it. The situation has left me in such a state of fear that I have startled not only myself, but also 3 other individuals. If, by some stroke of luck, the authorities are not currently searching for me, I consider myself fortunate. However, if they are, I will confront the consequences when the time arises. My occupation revolves around construction, specifically demolition. As a result, my team and I frequently travel, and I had been away for 10 out of the past 14 days due to inclement weather. It is challenging to carry out explosive operations in wet conditions. Consequently, I made the decision to board a plane and return home until we could resume work. Unfortunately, my flight did not arrive until midnight. In an attempt to surprise Emma, I refrained from informing her of my arrival. I embarked on a 45-minute drive from the airport to our residence. 8 years ago, Emma stumbled upon a picturesque plot of land secluded from neighboring houses through her real estate profession. 2 years later, I completed the construction of our beloved home. It boasts a 4-car garage, making it unusual to find any vehicles parked in front. My heart sank when I noticed an unfamiliar black SUV. I immediately sensed the truth. Despite not detecting any issues within our marriage, devoid of any arguments, and maintaining a satisfying and frequent intimate life, I inexplicably knew what awaited me inside. If the car belonged to one of her relatives, she would have undoubtedly informed me. A small part of me clung to the hope that it was a female coworker who had consumed excessive alcohol and needed to sleep it off. However, such a scenario would be highly irregular. I spent at least 15 minutes parked outside the house, meticulously contemplating my next steps. I positioned my car inches away from the driver's side of the SUV, adjacent to a retaining wall. Upon my arrival, I made sure that the person who owned the house would not leave without my permission or resort to breaking a window. I parked my car, turned off the engine, and entered through the back door leading to the deck. I have a concealed carry permit for a gun, which I securely holstered before stepping into my vehicle. While at the airport, I was not concerned for my safety, but rather worried about losing my composure and harming someone else. As I entered my home, everything seemed eerily quiet. Initially, I assumed that no one was present. However, upon noticing a prepared meal for 2 on the table and a sink full of dirty dishes, I sensed that something was amiss. I proceeded calmly down the hallway towards our bedroom and slowly turned the doorknob. Pushing the door open, I was met with silence and stillness. The room was engulfed in darkness. I walked over to switch on the bathroom light. Upon turning back, I saw Emma, completely unclothed, lying on top of an unfamiliar man. My heart sank. It felt as though a heavy weight had been placed on my chest. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, but I knew they would serve no purpose. I took out my phone and began recording the scene. Moving around the bed, I captured the sight of the intertwined bodies before me. The realization that my marriage was over began to sink in. I understood that our possessions would be divided equally, despite my unwavering faithfulness. The realization that the house I had constructed with my own hands would have to be sold hit me hard. During the asset division in the divorce proceedings, the emotional betrayal stung more than any physical pain I had ever experienced. The injustice of the situation nearly drove me to madness. However, I made up my mind to sever all ties with her and never lay a hand on her tainted body again. I was repulsed by what I witnessed, particularly by Emma. In my eyes, she had transformed from a loving, loyal wife to a despicable stranger in a matter of minutes. Neither of them stirred, indicating that they were likely intoxicated and unconscious. Since the house was to be sold, I no longer cared about any potential damage. I retrieved my 0.45 and simply gazed at the two individuals who had betrayed me in my own bed, feeling a mix of emotions for a brief moment. I considered the option of shooting her, understanding that the bullets would go through her and hit him as well. However, I regained my composure and realized that neither of them were worth facing the electric chair for. Despite the pain I was experiencing, I knew that I still wanted to continue living. Therefore, I cocked the gun, raised it into the air, aimed to my upper right, and fired 2 shots into the ceiling. Instantly, they both woke up. Emma hurriedly pushed herself away from the man, who then pushed her to the floor before making eye contact with me. The fear in his eyes was nothing compared to the sheer terror in Emma's eyes. He appeared almost calm. She tried to explain that it wasn't what it seemed. In response, I fired a shot through the bedroom closet door. She fell silent immediately while he remained silent. They were both seated on opposite sides of our bed, covered up to their necks with a sheet. I inquired about the man's identity, and he introduced himself as Peter. I asked Emma how they knew each other, and she revealed that he owned a real estate company. Next, I questioned how long the affair had been going on, as I had been completely unaware of Emma's infidelity. She had the audacity to claim that it was the first and only time they had been together. In response, I fired 2 shots into the headboard of the bed between them. They both started crying and pleaded with me to stop. I repeated the question. To my surprise, Peter responded. It had been going on for 6 months. It angered me, but at least I now knew the truth. I asked Emma when she stopped loving me, and through tears, she falsely claimed that she never stopped. I fired 2 shots into the bathroom on her side of the bed, causing her to scream as glass from the shattered mirror covered the counter and floor. I called her a deceitful, worthless person and declared that I was finished with her lies. She was clearly having a panic attack, but I was indifferent at that moment. I asked Peter if he was married, to which he confirmed. I inquired if he had children who would miss him. I considered the option of shooting her, understanding that the bullets would go through her and hit him as well. However, I regained my composure and realized that neither of them were worth facing the electric chair for. Despite the pain I was experiencing, I knew that I still wanted to continue living. Therefore, I cocked the gun, raised it into the air, aimed to my upper right, and fired 2 shots into the ceiling. Instantly, they both woke up. Emma hurriedly pushed herself away from the man, who then pushed her to the floor before making eye contact with me. The fear in his eyes was nothing compared to the sheer terror in Emma's eyes. He appeared almost calm. She tried to explain that it wasn't what it seemed. In response, I fired a shot through the bedroom closet door. She fell silent immediately, while he remained silent. They were both seated on opposite sides of our bed, covered up to their necks with a sheet. I inquired about the man's identity, and he introduced himself as Peter. I asked Emma how they knew each other, and she revealed that he owned a real estate company. Next, I questioned how long the affair had been going on, as I had been completely unaware of Emma's infidelity. She had the audacity to claim that it was the first and only time they had been together. In response, I fired 2 shots into the headboard of the bed between them. They both started crying and pleaded with me to stop. I repeated the question. To my surprise, Peter responded. It had been going on for 6 months. It angered me, but at least I now knew the truth. I asked Emma when she stopped loving me, and through tears, she falsely claimed that she never stopped. I fired 2 shots into the bathroom on her side of the bed, causing her to scream as glass from the shattered mirror covered the counter and floor. I called her a deceitful, worthless person and declared that I was finished with her lies. She was clearly having a panic attack, but I was indifferent at that moment. I asked Peter if he was married, to which he confirmed. I inquired if he had children who would miss him. I inquired whether she preferred to contact her parents or her sister to come and pick her up. However, she declined my offer. I even suggested calling the police, but she anticipated that we would have a discussion to resolve the situation, so she refused. She attempted to explain herself, but I interrupted her and firmly stated that our relationship was over for good. I made it clear that our home was no longer her home and insisted that she leave and drive anywhere except our house. I expressed that I no longer harbored any love for her after her actions and that there would be no second chances. As she began to apologize, cry, and plead, I silenced her with 2 shots into the double oven and 1 into the fridge, bringing a much-needed silence. Living in a remote area with the nearest neighbor over 2 miles away had its advantages. I explained to Emma that at that moment I no longer cared about my own life and that she had completely shattered me with her actions. I informed her that the love I once had for her instantly transformed into hatred the moment I witnessed her and Peter together, naked. If it were possible, I would have erased her existence and the memory of her, just like Thanos snapping his fingers. I barely managed to maintain my composure while feeling an intense loathing towards her. I suggested that it would be best if she went to the garage, got into her car, and drove away forever, all while tears streamed down her face. She proceeded to leave, driving off into the night. It has been approximately 5 hours since then. Realizing that I may have committed a crime or two with my reaction, I wanted to avoid any potential encounters with the police. Therefore, I turned off all the lights and locked the doors before leaving in my car once again. My father owns a fishing cabin that he and his friends frequently visit. I drove there and used the spare key hidden on the premises to let myself in. It was too early to contact anyone when I arrived. Feeling the need for a drink, I am currently about a quarter of the way through a bottle of my father's Balvenie scotch. I anticipate that my father will be upset about it until I explain what Emma did. Additionally, I suspect it may be the same bottle I purchased for his birthday last month. I am at a loss as to what to do next. Most individuals appear to be attempting to determine if their spouse is being unfaithful. However, I am already aware of the truth. Well, I am aware of as much truth as I desire. The justifications for infidelity all sound empty to me. I desire a divorce, and I want it to be in my favor as quickly as possible. She will never have the option to choose me again. I am a human being, not a prize at a carnival. I want to eliminate her from my life and erase any reminder of her existence. I never want to see or hear from her again. Can everything be handled by lawyers? I have the financial means to initiate the process. What I lack is the time, energy, and patience to deal with this. 8 years of marriage have gone down the drain. I now consider those 8 years to be one enormous lie. After witnessing what I just did, how can I believe anything she has ever told me? It is the truth. I wasted 8 years of my life on a wicked, deceitful imposter. Part of me wishes I had shot them both and ended my own life, but perhaps that is just the influence of alcohol speaking. Goodness. I need to get myself tested to ensure she didn't give me anything. Actually, now that I think about it, I have wasted an entire decade on her. Her actions have invalidated my existence and diminished the value of the time I spent with her. The only lesson I will take from this marriage is that honesty and loyalty are relics of the past. The only thing that seems to last in any relationship nowadays is herpes. That disease is permanent. Love and marriage are nothing but complete falsehoods. I am feeling extremely low right now. Some individuals may already view me as a primitive brute for responding with violence and making threats. I am also aware that some will criticize me for mentioning my firearms. I did not shoot anyone in the bed. The sheets were already stained before I fired a single shot. If bullet holes decrease the house's value, it can be sold for a few thousand less. I can live with that. I simply cannot cope with this situation. Part of me wants to just end it all and give up. The life I once had is over, and it will never return, even if I desired it to. People will likely say that I narrowly avoided a disaster. The irony of not having children with Emma and discovering her disloyalty is overwhelming. My emotions fluctuate between uncontrollable tears and unprecedented rage. I am torn between facing this situation head-on or simply ending it all. At this moment, the latter option appears more appealing. Perhaps if I manage to pass out and get some rest, things might not seem as bleak. However, I highly doubt that will be the case. The weather forecast indicates that conditions will improve enough for work in a few days, requiring me to catch a flight the day before. I have reservations about the area we are working in for various reasons. Part of me wishes to remain there after completing the job and not return. I am contemplating where to begin anew. If I choose to start over, how do I determine which lawyer to hire? Is there an online rating system for legal assistance? I despise lawyers. They are members of a corrupt profession. Now I must find the most aggressive lawyer available. The pain in my heart will not dissipate any time soon. What am I supposed to do? What is the purpose of anything? The person I devoted myself to is gone forever. Tonight, I discovered that she was never real. While I was not flawless, I remained faithful and never abusive. She had never witnessed me raise my voice until now. I was a devoted husband who cherished marriage and loyalty. However, for every good man, there is a woman waiting to destroy his life for her own benefit. I am fed up with this existence, my soon-to-be ex-wife and relationships. I am rambling now. I suppose I will retire for the night. Tomorrow I will inform my parents of the recent events. I am in a state of shock, experiencing heartache like never before. Perhaps tomorrow will bring some relief, and I will provide an update. I am certain that some will criticize my actions as excessive or unwarranted. It appears that the law aligns with those individuals. This update will likely please the anti-gun advocates. Let me address this matter first so that those individuals can be pleased with the situation I am currently dealing with. I have been arrested for making threats, felonious assault, assault with a deadly weapon, and a few other misdemeanors or felonies that may not matter if convicted of the felonies, even without a criminal record. If found guilty, I could face more than 25 years in prison. Although it is unlikely that I will receive such a lengthy sentence, it remains a possibility. Interestingly, if I had actually shot Peter or my wife in a fit of anger, I might have faced a shorter sentence. Peter chose to go to the police instead of confessing to his wife. He admitted to the authorities about being involved with a married woman, and he seemed to have garnered some sympathy from the police. The deputy who took his statement was one of the sheriffs who later arrested me. The arrest went smoothly, as I did not resist at all. Looking back, I believe that Peter's decision to press charges was a preemptive move, as the judge at my arraignment prohibited me from contacting Peter or any of his family members. Consequently, I have refrained from reaching out to his wife in any manner. However, by having me arrested, Peter achieved a few other objectives. I informed my employer about the charges, which prevented me from leaving the state. They went into a frenzy because my position is highly specialized. It took them 2 weeks to find a replacement with similar training and experience, leaving me now in search of a new job. This unexpected turn of events complicated my ability to secure legal representation before even considering hiring a divorce attorney. My focus has shifted to finding a defense attorney, as I was served with divorce papers just 2 days ago. It appears that my wife intends to take everything from me, but we have not communicated since that night. Despite her calls and messages, I have chosen not to read, respond, or acknowledge any of them. I harbor deep resentment towards her and do not see myself moving past this situation. Moving forward seems impossible, and the prospect of reclaiming my former life is bleak. I have been residing with my parents, who have been incredibly supportive and amazing. However, the situation I find myself in is quite challenging. Currently, there isn't much anyone can say to alleviate the focus on the criminal charges I am facing and the possibility of imprisonment. Unfortunately, I have lost my wife, and my future plans have been put on hold. Despite receiving divorce papers, I have overheard my mother crying for me in private. This situation is also taking a toll on my parents, who should not have to worry about their son spending time behind bars. They should be able to focus on their retirement and enjoy life. It seems that I have not only ruined my own life, but someone else has played a part in destroying it as well. Most days, I find myself confined to my childhood room, anxiously waiting for the worst to happen. I suspect that my wife may be assisting Peter or the police in the criminal court case against me. She certainly isn't obstructing anyone. That much is certain. I haven't spoken to her, so I am unaware of what is going on in her mind. However, if she despises me for reasons unknown, I suppose she is giving me what I deserve. I apologize for not providing a more positive update. Those who advocate for leaving and divorcing one's partner will be pleased to know that it will indeed happen, regardless of the circumstances. I am simply uncertain whether I will be a free man when it occurs, or if I will be serving my sentence behind bars. The other night, I had a conversation with my cousin who casually mentioned something about my future dating life. Although he didn't mean anything by it, it made me realize that I haven't even begun to consider that aspect. It's as if I need to forget about what my wife did to me and the lack of trust I may have in any woman moving forward. I haven't even begun to contemplate that possibility. Then it dawned on me. If things take a turn for the worse, my next romantic encounter could potentially be with someone named Jerome. My lawyer is genuinely working towards winning my case, rather than solely focusing on keeping me out of jail. I truly appreciate that, as it is exactly what I need to happen. However, I cannot bear the thought of going to prison if I am convicted. Even without imprisonment, my career is undoubtedly ruined. I cannot bear the thought of being in prison. The shock of seeing my wife with another man has left me feeling like I'm in a never-ending nightmare. It's like watching a movie that I can't turn off, even though I'm completely disgusted. My life is a living hell right now, and all of this is a result of her infidelity. After the update, I learned that according to federal law, both the prosecution and defense must present all evidence and potential witnesses before a trial. My lawyer kept the footage of my wife and Peter cheating a secret for a reason. It wasn't a trial, but more of a hearing with a judge presiding. During the proceedings, my lawyer presented a USB drive as evidence, but the footage was on a tablet. Peter didn't know I had proof, or he simply forgot. I remembered putting my phone away after recording them before pulling out my gun, so neither of them saw it. Peter refused to testify and the charges were dropped. Peter's father, a retired judge and business owner, couldn't risk having his son's name associated with the evidence in a public trial. I was incredibly lucky to have avoided a trial altogether. My lawyer believed she could have convinced a jury to find me not guilty, but having no charges or trial at all was even better. After the hearing, Peter left the courtroom before I could. When I turned on my phone, I saw missed texts and calls from an unknown number, which I assumed was my wife. I didn't respond because I hadn't read or listened to anything, but I was certain she had discovered the video evidence. She was either trying to make amends or preparing for a legal battle. Her lawyer could communicate with mine to discuss the next steps. I have not had any form of communication with her since the moment I caught her cheating on me. If I ever feel the need to speak to the deceased, I will arrange a seance. My divorce attorney, who is highly reputable, was the first person I tried to contact after the charges were dropped. The footage will be crucial in divorce court proceedings, so I cannot show it to Peter's wife just yet. I assume she may find out through other means, but who knows? Peter may have taken some preemptive measures and informed his wife about the situation. However, I doubt he confessed everything. My parents were relieved when I called them during their vacation to share the unexpected good news. We all anticipated a trial, so the outcome of the hearing was a pleasant surprise. Now, my focus is on the divorce process, and my attorney has received the divorce paperwork filed by my wife. It will not be as easy as she thought it would be. Currently, she is residing in the house, which puts me at a disadvantage. However, my lawyer is working on some paperwork to counteract this. I have no intention of returning to that house after what I witnessed, especially considering the necessary repairs and new appliances it requires. I also do not want her to have it. Given the soaring housing prices, I believe the house and land should be sold outright. She should not benefit from it, especially since she was the reason for the marriage falling apart. If she wanted to continue living there, she should have been faithful. Actions have consequences, and if she believes that jeopardizing a marriage for a fling is worth losing a house, she is not fit for real estate. Regarding employment, I plan to spend the upcoming week either trying to regain my previous job or securing a new one. I do not wish to take someone else's job, particularly in a specialized field, but I need to cover the legal expenses that I never anticipated. I am aware that whoever took my place lacks the same level of experience and knowledge that I possess. Moreover, I am confident that I will not remain unemployed for an extended period of time, regardless of whether or not I am familiar with the team. These past few months have not been a leisurely vacation, and I am eager to return to work. I need something to occupy my mind and divert my attention from the ongoing divorce proceedings. It is essential for me to move forward and leave behind the memories of that dreadful night. Considering the circumstances, I consider myself fortunate to be alive and even luckier to have avoided imprisonment. However, the entire situation infuriates me. It is not just the money wasted on legal fees or the time lost, but also the realization that the words I once believed were true turned out to be lies. The deception is unsettling. especially when I reflect on the fact that I never truly knew her. It is disturbing to think that I acted foolishly over someone I never truly understood. If one were to become enraged and resort to violence, it should be for a worthy, loyal, and loving partner. However, losing control over someone who lied and never cared is not worth a single blow, let alone gunfire. Learn from my mistake. It is simply not worth it. If only people could be honest with themselves and others, it would be a significant improvement. My soon-to-be ex-wife continues to reach out and attempt communication. However, the time for communication was before she gave herself to another man. I desire a fresh start, preferably in a location not too far from my parents, but distant enough to avoid running into my soon-to-be ex-wife or her affair partner. Although I dislike large cities, small towns have their own set of drawbacks. I used to earn a substantial income, and while starting over with everything may seem appealing after the past couple of months, I am struggling to determine where I want to live. All I know is that I no longer wish to reside here. I am grateful that we did not have children, as this experience would have been far more challenging. It brings me comfort to be able to cut off contact with her and move forward without the lifelong connection of a child. I still adore children and hope to have my own someday, but I am thankful that I did not have any with a woman capable of such betrayal. I am currently feeling quite disheartened with life, but I take solace in the fact that I have the freedom and opportunity to rebuild. Moving on from my past mistakes is crucial for me to regain control of my life. It is a tragic situation that I deeply regret, and I acknowledge the need for therapy to address the aftermath of my actions. In 2 weeks, I have an appointment scheduled for individual counseling, which I believe will be instrumental in helping me piece my life back together. I am aware that I will face criticism for my anger issues, but I understand the importance of receiving such feedback. I require assistance in rebuilding my life after everything fell apart. I take full responsibility for my past actions and can only strive to improve myself moving forward. I cannot change who I used to be, but I am committed to personal growth. After contemplating for several days, I've been struggling to find the right words to explain the events that have unfolded and the current state of affairs. I owe it to those who have offered me valuable advice since my mistake to provide an update. However, delving into all the details and drama would be excessively time-consuming. Our respective lawyers have initiated communication. My soon-to-be ex-wife's side has repeatedly requested a conversation between the two of us, but I have consistently declined. Our legal team has been proactive in pushing for negotiations and progressing our case. Whenever the topic of the house and property arises, my lawyer senses a certain uneasiness from the opposing side, although the exact meaning of this remains unclear. Nonetheless, they insisted on meeting face-to-face, emphasizing its significance for both our futures, whether separate or together. Although I initially wanted to refuse, my lawyer advised that eventually I would have to face her in court, making a meeting inevitable. They were aware of the infidelity and possessed evidence, although they had not seen it yet. My lawyer sought to understand their intentions and the approach they were taking. Personally, I had no desire to see or hear from my wife. Unfortunately, they were not open to a group text, so we arranged to meet in a conference room at my lawyer's office. As my wife and her lawyer entered the room, I made sure my gaze conveyed a mixture of hatred and disgust. I refrained from providing the specific details, but I unleashed a torrent of curses upon her that surpassed any previous human experience. That fateful night, she was subjected to a level of yelling she had never encountered from me before, not even during that dreadful night in the conference room. I had never resorted to cursing at her, not even on that terrible occasion. I let loose every vile thought I had harbored about her, every negative belief I held, and every ill wish I had for her. Her lawyer was visibly taken aback, while mine displayed a slight hint of surprise, although I had forewarned him of what to expect when he agreed to the meeting. My wife finally realized the sincerity behind my words and the depth of my resentment towards her for the harm she had caused us, and me personally, even before the meeting commenced. We had to take a 30-minute break to regain composure before reconvening. During the subsequent meeting, my wife requested to speak to me without any interruptions. I cannot provide an exact account of her words, so I shall refrain from attempting to do so. She began by expressing profound regret for all that had transpired, acknowledging that my refusal to engage with her or respond to her messages was understandable given the circumstances. Following my earlier outburst, she proceeded to inform me about the potential significant value of the land we owned in the near future. Allegedly, a well-known company, whose name I shall withhold although it is widely recognized, was considering acquiring a substantial amount of land for development purposes. The deal was contingent upon persuading other landowners to sell their properties as well. The company intended to purchase a vast expanse of acreage, and our land happened to meet all their criteria, being located within a specific distance from a power station, major highway, airport, water source, and other essential facilities. She emphasized the urgency of discussing the matter, as she could not proceed with the sale without my involvement. At that moment, I interjected. I mentioned the possibility of going to prison, but it was not a question. I could tell from her lawyer's expression that she knew the answer. She then came out and told Peter not to press charges to avoid me running away. I felt the urge to hit someone, but I refrained from hitting a woman and risking a lawsuit from my lawyer. I did not mind that they continued to communicate after that incident, but it still bothered me. She explained that they needed to stay in touch because he was the agent responsible for the attempted sale. He stood to profit greatly. As the owners, we stood to gain even more. His connections in government and real estate were extensive due to his parents' careers. However, when he saw an opportunity to eliminate me from the situation, he took it. He never appeared anywhere without clothes. He had them in his car, which I was unaware of. The police received a completely different version of events, but I was not surprised. When I was charged, my wife said she would not testify, but I refused to respond to her. She claimed to be happy that the charges were dropped. That's when I asked if she was happy before she discovered I had recorded her and Peter. She remained silent. I showed her and her lawyer the footage I had captured by handing them my phone. I don't think my lawyer wanted me to show it, but they were aware of its existence and I couldn't show it to anyone else at that time. I warned her that Peter's wife would eventually see that footage. That's when she mentioned that revealing it would mean losing out on a significant amount of money, more than I could ever earn from my job. I asked if that was her motive for cheating. Money. Greed. She actually had the audacity to claim that she cheated for us. The argument that followed that statement alone lasted over an hour. We took a break for lunch, and I decided to eat alone for an hour just to get away from everyone in a peculiar way. She delivered good news, but it was overshadowed by the negative aspects. The lawyers were thrilled to hear about the potential land sale. They were aware that we would eventually discover the truth, and if there was any possibility of an immediate sale, I would have to agree to it. Consequently, they decided to disclose everything. I have the power to cancel the entire deal if I so choose. While this would not cost Peter anything, it would prevent me from making a substantial amount of money. However, I would not be able to make a significant profit unless my soon-to-be ex-wife also earns a substantial amount. When I returned to the meeting, my wife provided a detailed explanation of how all of this unfolded. It began when she participated in one of those home showings. Peter's agency was showcasing two of the houses. Since they were familiar with each other through mutual acquaintances, he approached her and inquired about our satisfaction with our current living situation. From there, he explained that he knew an agent who specialized in business and manufacturing sites. He presented his idea, and I suppose she saw the potential for financial gain. Peter, a trusted individual in our community, would likely have an easier time purchasing land from locals compared to someone they had never met. By working together, the two agents could easily buy properties at a low price and sell them at a higher value. However, due to the location of our land, the deal could not proceed without our involvement. Peter and my wife engaged with locals and made plans accordingly. Eventually, their involvement became physical. So 6 months before I even realized it, my marriage had already come to an end. She insisted that their actions were merely a result of getting carried away by the prospect of money. According to her, it meant nothing and was purely a physical encounter. Although I wanted to express my anger in the strongest possible terms, I tried to control myself. I asked her if she and that person had used protection. She claimed they did initially, but eventually stopped because she was on birth control. I shouted, 6 days! 6 days! Before calling her a repulsive and worthless individual. Confused, she asked what I was referring to, So I proceeded to explain that when a man ejaculates inside a woman, his fluids can remain inside her for up to 6 days. The thought of what she had exposed me to made me feel nauseous. I asked her how she would feel if I were to visit a prostitute, insert my fingers inside her, and then put them in my wife's mouth. Yes, it is repulsive, but it is the equivalent of her actions. She claimed she took showers. I informed her that unless she could stand on her head and spread her legs to rinse out, it was not believable. She was a vile woman, and she wondered why. I regarded her with a disgusted expression. It is because I am disgusted. She is repulsive and forced me against my will to endure things I do not even want to think about. Not to mention the things she did with her mouth. Peter can have her. She is now tainted with his filth. However, I had to leave. I was no longer functional for the rest of the day. I went and got drunk for the first time since my after-party at my dad's cabin. Part of me should be really happy, and I am. I know that if things work out, I will be able to pay my lawyers in full, repay my parents tenfold, and have a substantial amount of money to start over almost anywhere. But the absurdity I had to agree to in order to get that money makes me sicker than my wife. 3 lawyers drafted an agreement. Our 2 lawyers drafted an even split divorce. We cannot finalize the divorce until the land sells or the deal falls through. But the divorce will happen, and my marriage is finished. I am not in a rush to be single just so I can remarry. I cut off contact with her very effectively despite my unfortunate marital status. I do not have to see or speak to the immoral woman, but it bothers me to still have any connection with her in any way. I cannot reach out to Peter's wife, not now or in the future. I cannot show the footage of my wife to her parents or family, but she has informed them that we are getting a divorce and did confess to having an affair. In any case, I got my job back and will start at a new site next week. There is talk of having the charges Peter brought against me sealed from record or something, but my record is clean. Thank goodness I am still grappling with her excuses and her attitude about those excuses. Admittedly, I would be away for 10 days at a time. At no point did I suspect anything, and our sex life remained consistent. Yes, it is repulsive, but it is the equivalent of her actions. She claimed she took showers. I informed her that unless she could stand on her head and spread her legs to rinse out, it was not believable. She was a vile woman, and she wondered why. I regarded her with a disgusted expression. It is because I am disgusted. She is repulsive and forced me against my will to endure things I do not even want to think about. Not to mention the things she did with her mouth. Peter can have her. She is now tainted with his filth. However, I had to leave. I was no longer functional for the rest of the day. I went and got drunk for the first time since my after-party at my dad's cabin. Part of me should be really happy, and I am. I know that if things work out, I will be able to pay my lawyers in full, repay my parents tenfold, and have a substantial amount of money to start over almost anywhere. But the absurdity I had to agree to in order to get that money makes me sicker than my wife. 3 lawyers drafted an agreement. Our 2 lawyers drafted an even split divorce. We cannot finalize the divorce until the land sells or the deal falls through. But the divorce will happen, and my marriage is finished. I am not in a rush to be single just so I can remarry. I cut off contact with her very effectively despite my unfortunate marital status. I do not have to see or speak to the immoral woman, but it bothers me to still have any connection with her in any way. I cannot reach out to Peter's wife, not now or in the future. I cannot show the footage of my wife to her parents or family, but she has informed them that we are getting a divorce and did confess to having an affair. In any case, I got my job back and will start at a new site next week. There is talk of having the charges Peter brought against me sealed from record or something, but my record is clean. Thank goodness I am still grappling with her excuses and her attitude about those excuses. Admittedly, I would be away for 10 days at a time. At no point did I suspect anything, and our sex life remained consistent. She degraded me simply by being associated with me. She exposed truths I was not prepared to face, all stemming from the initial comment on my very first post. I understand that not every woman is similar to my wife. I can confirm that not every man is as despicable as Peter, but it is frustrating how such individuals ruin things for the rest of us. It appears that loyal individuals with strong connections rarely cross paths. Nearly every post here involves a good guy or girl who ended up with a promiscuous partner, leading to negative consequences. Rebuilding trust seems impossible. The thought of trusting someone like that again is unimaginable. No one is worth the pain she caused me, especially her. It angers me. He will likely get away with it. Perhaps karma will catch up to him, but I doubt it. Another update seems unnecessary. She and I will divorce, money will be divided, and we will part ways permanently. That is how it will conclude. It is all just temporarily on hold. I am grateful to those who offered advice, advised me to remain silent, and encouraged me to seek legal counsel. To those who suggested I give up, go find something else to do. I will wait a couple of days before responding to some comments. After that, I will likely disappear. I wish healing for all who have experienced betrayal, including myself. Until then, this will be my final comment on this thread. I appreciate those who supported me and those who pushed me to take action. To the critics, you have the right to your opinion. Just know that I will not lose any sleep over it. Currently, a sale of the land in April or May seems probable. The industrial real estate agent has overcome many obstacles for the company to purchase the land. I am uncertain about the exact start date for the clearing and building process, but I will have the necessary funds by then and will not be concerned. The progress will be expedited as much as possible. Although my wife still reaches out occasionally through calls or texts, I choose not to respond. I doubt she has ever cared about me. Engaging in casual encounters for the pleasure of others is a concept that I find repulsive. The fact that she is capable of such actions disgusts me, and I want no association with her or anyone similar. The realization that I hold her body in higher regard than she does is truly disheartening. Nevertheless, I have decided to forego relationships altogether. I cannot fathom bringing a child into this world with any woman, given my wife's behavior. While I do desire children, I may consider using a surrogate after the land sale. Following her betrayal, the only thing my wife could potentially offer is offspring. Women no longer require men for procreation. I have no interest in having another unfaithful, disloyal wife. At least with a surrogate, I can ensure that my children are raised with strong moral values. My ex-wife lacks these qualities, and her actions demonstrate that she would make a poor wife and mother. Any child she brings into the world would be in dire need of divine intervention. Thanks for listening to One Infidelity Hit. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a like.